Right concentration is the 8th factor of the Eightfold Path, and it's known as Samma Samadhi. This is a very exalted state of mind and of heart. If you manage to have developed the first 7 factors in the right way, the causes that you made should have led to this as a result. Samma Samadhi is often translated as right concentration, and I don't think it's a very good English translation, but I'll try to find different words for this. What you really want to do is understand it for yourself, and you will understand it by reading the explanation that the Buddha gives of what Samadhi is. There are 4 jhanas, which are classically listed under Samma Samadhi. So whenever somebody talks about Samadhi or Samatha meditation, we are referring generally to this jhana state, this 4th jhana. And that means that something is missing from your psychological makeup. And those are the 5 hindrances. At this point of consciousness in Samadhi, they have now been diminished and suppressed. Your consciousness has been liberated from the 5 hindrances and all the conditionings and other samskaras of the mind, at least for the period of your Samadhi, a period of time, however long your Samadhi lasts. Samadhi can last however long you're developed as a meditator. And if you're fully liberated, then it'll be your natural state of consciousness, but that is a very high degree of liberation. These hindrances, these psychic irritants, have declined and they've disappeared, and 5 things, which are known as the powers of the mind, are accessible. They have arisen. And this is where we might get the idea of concentration. The first 2 factors of the first jhana are called vitakka and vichara. These are what we would call clarity, lucidity on a specific topic. And then we have the emotional and bodily feeling. The emotion is joy, and the Pali word is piti. The bodily sensation is sukha, and that is pleasure in the body. The body is pleasurable, the feeling in the body is pleasurable, and the last factor is ekaggata, which means one. So the mind is unified. All of its attention is on one subject, one point of focus. Now, there's another expression the Buddha uses, which is miccha samadhi. So the factor of the Eightfold Path is Samma Samadhi. Miccha Samadhi is another form of Samadhi, and it has many of these factors in it. But it's directed to the wrong kind of area, the wrong focus. So you could achieve Miccha Samadhi listening to music, for instance, to focusing, concentrating on anything. But why the Samma Samadhi is right concentration, or I should say, why is right concentration not attainable by the Miccha Samadhi, focusing with very strong, good concentration and awareness, but on the wrong things? Why can't it be attained through listening to music, for example? If it's the similar experiences for us, similar perception. And this is because music is a sensuous subject. It is sound. It tends to be indulged in sensually. It's also possible by sight to get samadhi, but it's based on a sensual desire and the fulfillment of the sensual desire, the enjoyment of the senses. And what Samma Samadhi is then, it's removed from the senses. It's a deep withdrawal. The mind has withdrawn from sights and sounds, smells, taste, touch, the 5 senses, and is now left with the first jhana. And it's possible to cultivate ideas now Not necessarily long conversational types of ideas, however. More so concepts. So if one has ideas, it's on a very specific topic, spiritual topics, which are directed right at the beginning by the Four Noble Truths, that is right view. And then everything proceeds from right view. So then what is the purpose of Samma Samadhi, right concentration? It is to fulfill the goal of right view. It is the having trained the mind to see. This sets you up for clarity of sight, the mind sight. And something should be very importantly emphasized here. You hear about the Vipassana schools, and you also sometimes hear of a strong diminishment of samatha practice and jhana practice. But what the Buddha says is that one who attains to this samadhi, there is no need to wish, may wisdom arise. Wisdom naturally arises and swells out of Samma Samadhi. Notice again the emphasis on Samma Samadhi, not just Samadhi. This is the objection usually to insight practitioners. They say, well, in Hindu practice, there is yoga and samadhi and jhana practice. And that's all that does. It just goes to there. And they recite episodes from the Buddha's life before he was the Buddha of, it was of him practicing very high states of jhana and dismissing them as not leading to true liberation. But it's hard, however, to explain why he includes Samma Samadhi in the Eightfold Path if it's unnecessary and it doesn't lead to release and freedom. Why does he include it then? It's because it is the right samadhi. So deep concentration at the service of right view. And that's what distinguishes it from the mere practice of yoga types of samadhi. So the Buddha says, if you can attain this Samma Samadhi, samadhi at the service of right view, there is no need to wish for may wisdom to arise. Wisdom naturally arises and swells out of Samma Samadhi. So this is indeed the way the Buddha was practicing on the night of his enlightenment. He goes back to a memory when he had a memory as a child, when he entered a state of samadhi. And the samadhi he entered into a child was not necessarily right samadhi. He is now using that to purify his mind. He's using the samadhi to do this, to look deeply into the question of what attachments remain. What is the root cause of suffering in the realm of samsara? So he first of all cleanses the mind. He purifies the mind with samadhi and then inquires. He directs his inquiry and discovers the principles which underlie suffering and the cessation of suffering. These things are beautifully intertwined. Samadhi and wisdom are intertwined. Samadhi and investigation are intertwined. Samadhi and vipassana are intertwined. They assist each other. Vipassana, by the way, one way to define it is that it's seeing clearly. So it's clear sight. Some say inward moving mind. Special insight. And it's not a technique in itself, it's the results of the practice of mindfulness. And also, samadhi is the result of the practice of mindfulness too. We can never really disentangle these path factors. They're all intertwined with each other. They circle back on each other. They reinforce each other. They're called recursive structures. So they circle around and increase each other's capacities. The more samadhi you get, the more you understand right effort. The more you practice right effort, the more you will clarify your mindfulness. The more you clarify your mindfulness, the more access you will have to samadhi. And this will all help with right intention and right speech, right effort, right livelihood. All of these things circle upon themselves. Samadhi practice is less popular, less well known in the West than mindfulness is. And basically, vipassana practice as well, which is just another form of mindfulness. The types of samadhi practice in the West are scattered and confused. There is a lack of familiarity with the texts, and there are basically three schools of when people start out talking about jhanas and samadhi. And these three schools are light, medium, and strong. When people make samadhi seem to be an easy attainment for lay people on a 2-week retreat or a 1-week retreat, this person is not really talking about Samma Samadhi. And I don't think the people who are thinking that they have attained some of the jhanas are actually easily accessing these states, because you have to understand, typically for our level of evolution, for this species at the time of the Buddha and for us right now, it's just not that easy. We have so much conditioning. But on the contrary, schools of thought that say that it is virtually impossible to attain jhanas at this time, that is also an extreme view. This is true for the majority of humans, but when you practice individually, you can get some pretty incredible results, but it takes time, effort, devotion, and not to mention good cultivation of energy, because you need energy to meditate, actually. You need fuel for the spiritual experiences. So I'm advocating a middle way between these two. It's possible, but do not underestimate what it is meant by Samma Samadhi, because these are not normal states of consciousness. These are super normal states of consciousness. The ordinary person doesn't experience them. Most people, like 97% of people, go through life without even experiencing the first jhana. And samadhi is the fourth jhana. So people don't even experience real rapture. They just experience excitability, excitement, stimulation, and it's of course from conditioning. So the people experiencing these higher states and thinking, they may think that they're experiencing them because the teacher may be encouraging or suggesting that it's easy and to go ahead, while they have perhaps very little sense of whether they're actually doing this. It's a bit like a person who sings around the house and somebody says, "Oh, you're so musical." Their family members say, "You're such a good singer. You should go sing on, So You Think You Can Sing," or whatever it's called. I think they changed the names, X Factor. But when you go and sing for them, you realize that your estimate of your capacity is not really accord with reality. And it's a much higher standard. So this shouldn't be bad news for somebody who thinks they might have attained some samadhi. This is good news. It's better than you think. That's all I'm saying. So these are supernormal states. They're just more beautiful, more profound, deeper than we might expect. They're not ordinary emotions or states of mind. So ordinary people don't just sit down and do this. It's very rare for someone to just enter into the first jhana or so in their first time in a 1-week retreat. Very rare. The factors of this are clearly explained by the Buddha, and certain types of topics are suitable for this more than others, and certain types you can attain deeper and deeper states of samadhi. And it's by practicing that you attain them for a long period of time, and then you also need to be able to use the resultants of them. Some kind of realizations can arise during the period of samadhi, when the mind is in samadhi. Mostly the texts seem to say that it's the after result, having purified the mind of its distractions and having lucidity after rising from samadhi, that the mind is directed to reflection. And it is now in a state of serene reflection on dhamma objects, or the three characteristics of impermanence, insubstantiality, unsatisfactoriness, anicca. So that's anicca, dukkha, anatta. The mind is now serenely directed to this, and how it arises within the human existence, within the mind, within the body. It's because the mind is now in a special state of clarity that insight can arise. This insight is a result, and with this can come an unconditional and irreversible insight that changes you. The way you view reality is changed forever. In the state of samadhi, you see things as they are, and to get there requires some wisdom and comprehension. When you have that comprehension, when you're accessing that comprehension, it's because a part of your mind has been liberated. So oftentimes, samskaras or egos are eliminated for us to see more clearly. And when that happens, your mind is changed fundamentally, basically forever. You don't unlearn or unsee reality once you see it. And these samskaras have been with us for many lifetimes. It's part of our evolution. So when you finally destroy one, that thing is not coming back. It takes time for these things to grow and develop. So it's a very deep change to eliminate samskaras or egos. Each liberation or each elimination of an ego is a liberation of consciousness. So this would be a state of enlightenment, and that would be a stage of enlightenment as well. It only takes a moment and it's done. Once the glimpse has been had, there's no going back. So samadhi is playing this very pivotal role, a very pivotal role in the whole process. So it should not be underestimated. In other words, as not important, and it should not be underestimated how demanding it is to get into this state and the true effect of it. So this Samma Samadhi is also extremely pleasant. It will clear up and give you some relief from the ordinary sufferings of life. You'll have more or less a pension if you can get samadhi. I call it a kind of retirement pension. You can retire from the world of the senses. Most people have to spend all the livelong day searching in the world of the senses with for little hints of stimulus, little drops of honey, if you will. But if you can find your way into this Samma Samadhi, it will allow you to live quite happily removed from the endless search in the world for sensory gratification. And so it's the underpinning for a life, a solitary life, which is rich and enjoyable. Without samadhi, it is virtually impossible to live the solitary, low sensory existence of monks and nuns, especially in the forest tradition. But any kind of low stimulus, solitary life is difficult. It's so boring. And the Buddha says, if you go to the forest and you have not samadhi, then you will soon be back. You don't have anything to live on. So samadhi is a form of food. It gives you very superior form of impressions that your mind can feed on. It nourishes your mind. And from there, everything else becomes nourished. So it's a mysterious form of food, because that food is wisdom. The people in the world around you, you can't see where you're getting your food. They can't see. And so how can you be at ease and at peace and solitude? You must be getting your food from somewhere. So, ordinary people get their food from the sensory world, from sights and sounds and smells, tastes, tactile sensations, ideas. But the one who attains samadhi has another source that is deeper. And it's self-perpetuating too. It doesn't come from the outside world. It comes from the mind. The Buddha talks about it as a pool in the mountains which has no rivers flowing into it. How is the pool a clear, cool, and refreshing pool in the mountains if there are no rivers flowing into it? It's because there's a spring in the pool and it's bubbling up out of the earth. This cool, refreshing water circulating in this pond. So that's his metaphor for samadhi. From within comes the cool, clear, refreshing experience. It's not coming from outside. It's not coming from the rivers of sensory experience flooding in. It comes from within you. And this is a brief description of Samma Samadhi and some of the critical points for those who are wanting to understand this and to pursue it. First is to not think that it's impossible at this time, but that to be aware that it really is an extra normal a state of mind. You should not take small experiences as samadhi. It's a profound and sustained experience. If you've had a glimpse occasionally of it, a glimpse is not enough. One should then continue to cultivate it until one can sustain it. And only when it's sustained and deepened does it serve its purpose for allowing the mind to awaken to a liberation and freedom. So I'll leave that for your reflection on right concentration.